Should see it come up there. That's done. Is this done? We can reset that one.
Yes.
Yeah, now it appears we are live. Okay, so
Oh, I'll come back.
okay. Greetings out there to everybody tuning in. Welcome to Activating Our Galactic DNA, presented by the Harmonic Factor and PR1328 and our beautiful friends here on the call. What a blessing. We wanted to take the time today to commemorate this auspicious milestone of the Biogenetic New Year, the Rave New Year, the Chinese Zodiac New Year, the new moon. There's so many overlays here, and we're going to get into this today. My name is Mikuak Rai, and I'm honored to be, I guess, a moderator of this roundtable discussion where we want to dive deeper into everybody who's here on this call together and hopefully present to folks who are tuning in some insights as to how maybe they can utilize some of these emergent tools to support their process. Wherever you are, whatever you're going through, we would like to think that what we're going to talk about today could be a complement to your journey. So without further ado, I want to welcome beside me, Y'Shell Esta.
Hello.
In the house. And Y'Shell, how you doing today?
I'm great. I'm welcoming everyone here too, please.
Right on. We have our good friend, Alisha Young Hall in Costa Rica. I want to say greetings to you. Yes.
Greetings. We are so excited to be here.
Yes. And Katya Samana beside you there. Greetings. Wonderful to meet you.
Thank you for the invitation. So happy to be here with you.
Oh, it's a great thing. And our good brother, Ruben Llinas, tapping in from Oaxaca in South Mexico. Peace.
Hello, everyone. Peace to all the people watching this live stream now or in the future. And it's such a pleasure to be here, such an honor and such an auspicious moment in time to dive deep into our evolution, our transformation, and make the best out of these portals that are opening for humanity to really become a new species.
Well said. So, wow, you know what? There's so many directions we could go in the conversation. I think obviously starting at the beginning is a little helpful, given that today is regarded as a new year. It's a new cycle within certain timelines. And I think before we get into the inner workings of any of that, I think it might be great if we were able to go around and hear from each one of you a little bit about how you even got started in this exploration. Like, what's your story? Like, let's relate a little bit about that, just so that we get a sense of, you know, the pathway that may have brought you to this point in the journey. And I would love to invite Alicia, if you'd like to kick it off. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to. Wow, what a freaking magical journey. I want to share this picture really quick, because this is the Galactic Maya 108X transmission. This is just a little pic that came in.
Okay.
Okay, we're talking in symbols and codes. Okay, so where do I start? May 10th, 2016 was Kin 142, white crystal wind. And I had a near-death experience delivering my third child in Austin, Texas. And I've never been the same. It was very short after that. I went home and I watched a documentary called Minimalism. And I was like, how do I have all this stuff, this big house, all these things? And life is about money and competition and having everything and being number one and going on the trips and doing all the stuff. And then I asked my husband at the time, who I'm not married to anymore, which I never would have thought would have been the case, but it's part of the plan. This is what we learn about these tools, is that there is a plan in place. So we must surrender to the plan. There is a perfected mathematics that we must trust here. It allows us to surrender to everything. Anyways, downsized, sold everything. And then I went on a trip to Costa Rica. We thought we were just going for 2 months and ended up in this eco village. It was on Kin 131 Blue Monkey, right in the center of the galactic matrix. Didn't know that then, but looking back after I've scratched all the numbers, there were very deep, precise codes that were explaining my journey. So anyways, I'd never heard of anything like this stuff. I was really human. And it was like, as soon as I landed in this land, which I now call the galactic 0 point, I started to hear about DNA. Well, someone handed me the book, Bringers of the Dawn, Teachings of the Palladians. And I'm born direct to the Pallades lineup, but I didn't know that then because I'd never heard of a Palladian before. And she, my friend Katya here, is actually born direct opposite me in May, the other side of the Palladian lineup. Like, we're pretty much opposite twins, Palladians. And so I started learning as soon as I got here, DNA, frequency, and then the gene keys dropped in. And then Katya is the one that introduced me for the very first time to the idea of this Gregorian calendar and the disharmonious time cycles. And then she showed me the Zolkin for the first time. And I went right away and I plugged in my stuff, or maybe we even calculated it manually. She taught me how to calculate it manually. And I was the 144 yellow magnetic seed. And I'd heard this 144 number before, but it really, from there on out, I started studying all of it, and the gene keys and the return of the avatar and the coming of the new root race. And I went from a pretty basic knowledge being to craving this data and this information, and then synthesizing human design, gene keys, and the Zolkin all together. And now we're talking about becoming the future human being. So
That is amazing. And thank you for sharing, you know, a bit of your journey. And I know it's just a little thumbnail of the reality, but I'd love to actually ask the same question of you, Katya, as we're getting to know you also. What is it that has led you in your life journey to this awareness, to these systems that you were the introducer to Alicia, in fact? So how has your journey brought you here?
Yes. Hi, everyone again. I'm from Russia originally, and first time when I heard about Mayan calendar was in Russia from my teacher in university. When she first came into our classroom, she started to tell some strange things about some kind of astrology. I didn't know what is it about. And she asked us to write a letter, a message to ourselves. Where we'll be in 5 years. Can you imagine yourself in 5 years? It should be 2010. And we all write down this. We didn't know what for she is doing that. We couldn't expect it. So this was my first experience of planning for such long period also my life. And this is interesting that something really happened that I was planning. And then the second time I met this more profound in my life when I was pregnant, and we were already in another country with my husband. And we were trying to make decision where we should stay. It was really like very important decision in our life. So I called this teacher. I remember that she is doing this stuff of work, and I asked her, we were talking, having conversation, and somehow she helped me to make decision. And then I moved back to Costa Rica again. And right now I'm still here. We met with Alicia, and then I started to learn deeply. I took a course knowing better about Mayan calendar, how to count, how to understand all these keys. And then I think right now I'm doing it intuitively. So sometimes I even feel that it might be this key, it might be this tone, even if I don't follow every day, but for sure I'm doing it for my friends when I'm trying to check also to see, I'm curious who is in my team, who is close to me, what kind of key, and but more intuitively also. And it helps me so much in my life. And I can tell that, for example, the most important events in my life happened. I checked according to the Mayan calendar. For example, I'm in my 11th year of the cycle, and the first year of the cycle was when I met my husband. So for sure, it's like a big event in my life, very important. And some other like turns, 90-degree turns, also all connected. So yes, this is my story, and it helps me a lot in my life to plan, to plan some things, some events, some like my yoga classes, some events where I should connect with people, activate energy. For example, I can choose the white wind day, and I'm a star, I'm a yellow electric star, and I feel it like deeply connection with the skin. So and day out of time, this year was my kin. This was, yeah, so amazing sensation, feeling beauty of this day. So yes, and this is amazing how we connected with Alicia, how our life again bring us together. Yes,
It's quite prophetic.
It's beautiful. It's witnessing the magic, you know, like you said, the prophetic quality of it, I can only imagine. The codes definitely don't lie. They definitely do not lie. They direct you if you're perceiving them and receptive to that. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing as well. I'd love to ask Y'Shell. Sure, let me change the camera angle here, as we got to do this in real time. You know, we want to spotlight ourselves.
Right. Well,
Okay, here we go. All right.
listening to.
Absolutely. So,
about my
about your
backstory,
journey.
my
Yeah,
journey.
your journey. What brings you here?
Oh gosh. Well, what brought us all here, right, is to save the planet. But no, but yes. It's interesting because when Alicia talks, like I have definitely it resonates with me because I feel like we have parallel experiences. I had my near-death experience when I was around like 6 or 7 years old. And I always felt like there was somebody out there, and just like with the galactic, you know, essence and energy. But I think it really didn't hit me until I think around 2011, I decoded my galactic signature. So I'm a kin 16 yellow electric warrior. And I always was like, yes, I am a warrior. And that always felt empowering for me because I always felt very insecure growing up because I was always made fun of with my hair color. So it felt good just stepping into my true, you know, essence of who I am. And then around 2015, I was decoded for my human design type. And I'm a projector. And I think around in 2019 again, it came back around for me. I think when I had my divorce, I did a deep dive into self-healing, self-care, self-love. And my friend, who is a serpent, which is my hidden power, and I always felt that she was throughout my life, she planted the seed of the gene keys. And at that moment, she was like, yeah, it's kind of like human design, but it's, it's deeper. And I said, okay, I'm going to check it out. And me being Aquarius, I just like dove in, and I haven't really looked back. And it just kind of, all the things started to click for me. And I was able to, just things were where I wasn't able to express before, they were expressed through the book. And I just really resonated deep with it, and really helped me go through that divorce process. And then I think it was then that next year during one of Unify's broadcasts, which was the Harmonic Convergence, is when I first saw Reuben and Mikuak. You guys were the first speakers. It was like for the 12-day Harmonic Convergence. And I caught that first one, and I'm so grateful, because from that moment I was like, yes, these guys are speaking my language. I need to, and you guys went back about the calendar, and it took me back to, yeah, I was decoded back then. And so it's just, spiraling again, forward. And it's been a blessing. And, now I'm instilling the teachings with my 5-year-old. And I just wanted to share this, like we did this wave spell. We've been doing the wave spells. So he's been drawing them, and we've been, doing the powers and the actions. And so we have 4 more to do, and then we're done with all 20. But he tracks it. He knows his gene, he knows his galactic signature. He knows ours. He knows his brothers. He knows his dad's. And so he's been able to time track 2 every 260 days. And his galactic signature, or his galactic return, was just 2 days ago. So we all like celebrated that for him and made that conscious as he's, learning this system. So that's really been my journey with everything, and just seeing how they, harmonize with one another, and how it's just all part of the, evolving our species. Thank you.
Beautifully said. Wonderful. Brother Reuben, let's add you to the conversation. Feel free to elaborate. Come off mute if you don't mind. And then we'll replace the spotlight with you. Wonderful.
You think I'm unmuted? Can you hear me? No.
Totally. We hear you now.
Yeah, well, amazing to hear how all these stories are weaving together, and how we can hear reflections of our own story now that we are speaking about new beginnings. And this is really how this galactic seed of this new knowledge started flowering within us. And for me, it happened also around this time of the year, 13 years ago, in Cancun at the Prophets Conference. I was working as a translator for the organizers of this conference. And I have heard the name Jose Arguelles and the Mayan Factor for years, but I never really read the book or read any of his work. But that day I had the privilege and the honor to translate for him. Was one of his last lectures. He would be transcending out of this dimension the next year in 2011. But this conference happened on January 24th, 2010, which was his birthday. And after finishing translating, I felt that something big within me shifted, and this seed of awareness was planted, and I could really tap or put my finger on what he said that really made me feel that way, because I couldn't remember. When you're translating simultaneously, you barely have memory to store new information. So I knew something important had happened, but I couldn't really remember what he said or articulated. It took another year for me to meet someone who studied with him, while I was in a road trip in California, and when he decoded me, I learned that Jose Arguelles transcended that year. So that really made me go deeper into what was this information, this body of knowledge, and dive deeper. And I ended up becoming also like Alicia, very a passionate follower of this information, and really wanting to learn, like this thirst and hunger for this information to keep transforming me as it was doing it back then. So 3 years in the future, January 24th, after this translation, I felt like this inner call to start like a page to honor the legacy of Jose. And I was experiencing so much heart openings and moments of deep realization that I connected with the information at a whole different level. And I decided just to keep like an online journal through this page of this transformation that I was living on the personal side, but that I was able to witness that we on a collective as of the collective of humanity, we are living this transformational process. We are just little sparks of the same crystal that is evolving and transforming. And we all have our own perspective and our own experience. But for me, starting really open process and see to the collective and see what was going on and these events that were happening, what was the symbolism behind the moment when they were happening. I remember perfectly that it was on February 11, 2013, right after the closing of the cycle and the ceremonial link to the close of the 13th cartoon, this 13 state of the earth, the news of Pope from being the Pope of the Catholic Church, and that really ignited like a need to document the process of redemption that was happening. Like after crossing the 2012 event horizon, it felt really like we were entering a brand new stage of our evolution, and we are still living parts of that process on every day. This live stream is a product of that shift in our DNA that is pulsing us or igniting us from the inside to do these live transmissions and to give this information to more people, to allow them to have like a little glimpse of what this information and these systems can do for our personal and collective journeys of evolution. And just to make the rest of the story short, during the last few years, we have been, thanks to meeting Y'Shell and thanks to the work that she was already doing with the gene keys and human design, we have been integrating more and more into this journal of stages of our evolution, how these are really twin systems. They are kind of programming partners. They are assisting each other in different aspects of our evolution. and we are here also to spark that that light of a new awareness into whoever is watching and tuning to this transmission. So thank you so much for creating the container for it to happen, and for keeping up with these cycles, because it's so much is happening right now that at times could be a little bit overwhelming, but having the opportunity to share and the spaces to share just makes the process way more grounded and way more human. It's a human journey that we are all living in. It has like peaks and valleys, and right now is one of these peaks. It's same journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben, for that sharing and for giving us some background into your story. I'll tap in briefly. For me, I was decoded back on my birthday in the year 2000. So it's been over 2-decade journey for me at this point. And kind of at the point I was decoded, I was already well involved in some pretty in-depth esoteric studies and just real self-discovery sort of trajectory in life. And so obviously the science and the knowledge and the insight that comes along with the law of time and the synchronic order was very informative, very formative and informative at the same time. And so really, as each of us, it seems like once we did get decoded, it certainly influenced our personal choice to just keep at this, because part of it is just staying the course, and even as Katya said, it's not a matter of like tapping in every single day on that level. It's an intuitive process as well. So it's once you've become aware of this, it's almost like a connection that it remains unbroken of sorts. So you could even journey away from it, but something will bring you back, like Y'Shell getting decoded in 2010, and you never know, like 10 years later, she gets a whole avalanche of knowledge and insight and information. So I imagine it's very similar for each of us. It certainly has been that way on the roller coaster of a journey for me for the past 20 plus years with this knowledge. And it's, I'm grateful because it's a tremendous blessing to have the lenses that we've been gifted through which to perceive what in the world is really happening in this topsy-turvy time, and so it is true, as Ruben also indicated, I feel like this is certainly something that we have found to be in many ways a saving grace, just in terms of our mental aptitude and perspective, keeping a healthy, balanced, whole perspective on everything that's happening. And knowing that, the collective is going through this. It is an individual experience, while it's also very much a collective experience. And so I'm very excited about, as I have been for a long time, about the way that this helps us include and transcend. And I like that we're even looking at these two systems today as twin systems, because they literally are each other's programming partner systems in a way. And, that in a sense is a new recognition. We'll mention the name Adrian Glazier, who is somebody who's written about this quite extensively over the past few years. And we quote him in some of the articles published on the Harmonic Convergence Facebook page. But just knowing that as everything is shifting and evolving, all of this is a part of the synthesis that's underway, a real grand synthesis. And I know Richard Rudd also describes the gene keys as a grand synthesis of ancient knowledge and modern knowledge and information, similar with the human design system. So yeah, I'll keep it short for me, but I'm happy that it has found me here now after this many years, and also not here alone, here with other friends that we can share and really celebrate what the recognition of this actually means for humanity. That's the beautiful thing I really feel, is like I feel like we're privy to something very sacred and very impactful. And so naturally, we would want to help other people become aware of this, that they can apply their own attention to it, because what we place our attention on grows. It is absolutely this way with the codes, with the impact these codes have. So if you, as somebody out there listening in for the first time, is just curious about what your gene keys may be, and you Want to learn more about your hologenetic profile? Absolutely go to genekeys.com and do your free hologenetic profile. Just gather some of the data that relates to you. You know, that's the thing. Just start, whether it's human design. I happen to be a reflector. So when I learned that back in 2010 or 2011, you know, that was an interesting thing, because when people hear your reflector, it's like, oh, or something. I didn't know what that means necessarily, but it's like, okay, let's play, let's figure it out. You know, and it's kind of continued to be that way. It's a process of self and mutual discovery. I think it's a great value. So if you, for example, don't already know your galactic signature, you can go to lawoftime.org. Right there at the top of their website, you can decode your birth date and find out what your galactic signature is. So maybe this is your invitation. Again, if you've never explored this for yourself, consider this an invitation. And the tools are available. And we're just so happy to have had access to the tools because they're extremely beneficial. So, you know, with that said, I think I'd like to bring us all in view here on the gallery. And, you know, perhaps, let me unspotlight here, maybe. Just, you know, I'm thinking maybe this is a good time, Reuben, if we were to show the little slideshow, and then we can, you know, kind of dive into a share about this, because I think one of the things I don't want folks to overlook in this is that these systems are very complementary. They're really not separate. And I think you've done a great job in the slideshow we'll show here momentarily to showcase the connection with them, the relativity of them, and then we'll even get more into some of the technical aspects of how they actually do inform each other. So the day at a time informs the biogenetic new year and vice versa. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because that's a new conversation, in particular, largely among people who do track natural time. And this could become a more normal part of the conversation, that we do have these opportunities around the year to stabilize and align and make conscious these intersections. So if you're all right with that, I'll go ahead and share that, and you can kind of talk us through it, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Ruben.
Cool.
Okay, and I'll pull this up and you just let me know. And thank you to everybody tuning in. We're so glad to have you here, joining us on this adventure on Zoom, which is always a special experience. So hopefully, Ruben, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
but
So
I
I'll
can
just
see.
kind of flow with you as you want to share, you know, when I should move through the slideshow here. But we'll go ahead and begin.
Yep. Well, this is the start of the slide. If we can go to the start of the presentation, maybe.
Okay.
Because this is kind of the synthesis of the entire of the two systems, that we did our best to put it in 7 simple aspects of their nature. But can you, because I still see the same slide, if you can go to the slide 1 and start from there.
Okay. I'm not sure where slide 1 is, but okay, because I see everything full screen for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, if you click escape and you go and you click on slide 1, it will start there.
Okay.
It's just because of the one that
I got you.
one.
Okay, let me go ahead and click play at that point then. Hopefully this works. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, what we did here in this short synthesis, we are honoring the entrance of this age of synthesis, as Richard Roth mentioned it in the Gene Keys, in which our perceptions of time and our perceptions of space are shifting. We are becoming much more aware of our place in this grand plan of evolution. And if you continue clicking, we can just keep going. I will go with you. And these two aspects are basically how our consciousness function. We are a function of our perceptions of time and our perceptions of space. And it was precisely in 1987 when an event called Supernova 1987A took place, and it gave birth to this light, probably arrived into the consciousness of two human beings called Jose Arguelles and Uru Hu, and they were basically were able to download, because they became like channels for the information, a new body of knowledge that will redefine the science of time and the science of space in terms of the human body. We are, as Jose Arguelles said in that lecture in 2010 at the Prophets Conference, we are moving in space and evolving in time. But our consciousness so far has been a little bit too much focus on space, on the material. So we have these 3D bodies, which are our vehicles, our vessels, that are biocomputers, and these biocomputers they function through a program, a biogenetic program. So in the same way as a computer has an operational system, the biocomputer has two operational systems, and these operational systems are the synchronic order and the human design system. One redefines the mechanics of space as through the human body, and the other one reformulates or redefines the human mind through the synchronic order. So in the next slide, where that was the slide that was at the beginning, we summarized as best as we can the main aspects of these two very extensive and very rich bodies of knowledge that are the synchronic order and the human design systems. And that, I think these 7 points will allow us to have like a little bit of a guide in sharing, each one of us, a little bit of what we know, because we are all like trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And some of the information is actually new for me. I was just doing this as an experiment to be able to synthesize the information and present it to newcomers, thinking about the people who are watching this broadcast and this live stream, to be able to have like a glimpse of what they are and why are they important. So we have them here side by side with what we call the human in transit in the middle. That with the age of synthesis, we are basically synthesizing this information and integrating it in our daily lives. And how are we integrating it? Through the recognition or the making the unconscious conscious. This is what both systems are all about. These are codes and tools that are working in the background, even if we are not aware that they are taking place. So even for those people who have no idea today that is the start of a biogenetic new year and don't have no idea what that means, this is still happening. The sun is for instance transiting to the what is called the colon 41, which is the starting colon of the DNA sequence, and that gives start to this program that it runs the DNA from the perspective of the gene keys and the human design. And on the 13th moon calendar, we are approaching the center or the midpoint of the year. And this is where the two systems meet. And I think that from here, if we can go point by point on this table, speak about the nature, the purpose, the framework, the source, and the people who brought this knowledge, and the intelligence and the evolutionary stage that are behind these two bodies of knowledge, we can basically give like a very good summary to anyone who is new to this information, or who has never heard about it before. So,
Indeed. Indeed. Do you want me to keep this on the screen as a reference for people? Oh, you know, what would you like?
Yeah, or if you want, we can shift in between the spotlights of people speaking, and start going over each one of the points, which is they are animated in a sequence. So we don't, if you want, we can start the sequence again and go just one by one, just this slide, just this last slide, so that not all the information is revealed.
Okay. Gotcha. It's not responding exactly in real time. So
Yeah.
okay.
You can.
So here you go. Can you see what I see on the screen currently?
Yeah, just the two.
Okay.
Two, and
Okay.
so let's click
start with
one more
naked.
time. Yeah.
And I'd like to invite others into the conversation if they have some feedback as well about these subjects. But of course, I can't see anybody on the screen because this is full screen. So I'm just inviting people to, you know, perhaps contribute to the conversation if they feel compelled. But go ahead,
I want
Ruben.
to share a little bit.
Thank you.
And thank you, Reuben, for your magic always. These slides are incredible. The colors and everything that you're synthesizing. You know, in my synthesizing of these systems over the last 4 years, first of all, I want to say to anybody that's finding themselves here, don't try to understand everything with your logical mind, right? Because this is a telepathic transmission. It's beyond the mind. And so, but the most important part is you don't find yourself here live or on the replay by accident, and you'll never be the same again. And the acceleration that's coming, especially with this big ass comet that's coming in the sky right now, this is your supernova. This is the acidic supernova. And so these states are going to start to awaken within us just by being around this data or this information. So of course, when you decode yourself on the law of time decoder, or pulling up your gene keys for the first time, what's called the activation sequence, it's like that's your initiation. And then everything just starts. It doesn't matter if you have the book or not. And I will share too, what I've learned is I feel like when Uru Hu brought in the human design system, that this was like the masculine structure and form. You can even see it in the way it looks. And then I also see that it also could have its limitations as well, in my personal opinion. But then Gene Keys was like the evolution of it into the feminine flow of the energetics of how we fill this system up. And with that being said, I always like to say that we use these systems to find ourselves for just a moment, but we're always evolving and changing. And so we never get too caught up in the importance of the individual codes. We use them to study ourselves and to dive into the shadow and the acidic aspects. But eventually we unlock all of these gates, all of these codons within ourselves. And this is where we start to embody the avatar human. And so if anyone's ever read the Prophecy of Revelations, it talks about the unlocking of the 7 sacred seals and the activation of the 144,000. And this is the system. This synthesis is the system that's going to assist in what does it mean to unlock these 7 sacred seals within yourself. This is what Richard Rudd was bringing through. So that's all I want to share, is prepare for the acidic supernova as these codes start to turn on, and to trust what comes and to trust what goes as we go through a rebirth, which is what the 49 and the 55 talk about, the death and the rebirth and the and the mutation of our DNA that's taking place in the unseen that science has no idea is even existing right now. This is all coming from, at some point, we're bringing in a new knowledge of technology with how our bodies, how this organic biogenetic system actually works. So, okay, that's all I'll share for now.
That's amazing. Thank you, Alicia. And Ruben, let me know if you need me to go back on the slide or forward.
No. I think for now this is perfect, because just to recognize that these are whole living systems. No? There's an emphasis on this, because they are whole in themselves. They don't need like an external validation, so to speak. They are intelligent systems that are working their magic, and that if we use the systems, we can spot that magic. We can make the magic conscious. And Richard Rudd is always saying that the hidden harmony is now we are making it visible. And I think that as time progresses and we see synchronizations like today happening, the start of the Biogenetic New Year, coinciding with the new moon, coinciding with the Chinese New Year, coinciding today with the planets all going direct, coinciding with the closing, not only one more galactic spin or one cycle of human gestation of 260 days, but also like a larger hologram of 13,000 days that started precisely in 1987 after the explosion of this supernova. So we are all like fragments of this supernova, and this light is is already planted in our consciousness, waiting to ignite. And I love the idea of both sciences speaking about the light body and the ignition of that light body. That the Earth has a light body, which is the same as the Solkin structure, the 52 galactic activation portals, and the activation of new energetic centers. Like in the case of human design, we are shifting from being 7 center beings with these 7 chakras, which are also like little bulbs in our energetic body, to ignite 9 of them. And this has to do, actually, today the planet Uranus is the last to come direct, and it is this planet who actually shifted the consciousness. The discovery of Uranus changed the consciousness. This is the 8th orbit. The 8 happened to be on the synchronic order, the galactic tone. So we that's where Uru Hu says that this mutation that we are in started around 1615 AD, which is at the same time, or is synchronized with the start of the 13th Bactun of the Maya long count, this 13th stage of evolution of 144,000 days that started in 1618 and concluded in December 21st, 2012. So we are right now just really reaping the harvest from these activations. 10 years from 2012 is 10 is the number of manifestation within the system. So after 10 years, we can see the first manifestations of this light in our own consciousness, and we are little by little like neurons igniting the rainbow brain of the Earth, but it's also called the noosphere. And so in the same way as there is the cycle of human gestation that we are seeing right now is a 260-day cycle. For the Maya, the evolution of the Homo sapiens into a new species was 260 generations. Called these periods called Katuns. So what we closed in 2012 was really an evolutionary process that took 260 generations to come to this point, in which is accelerating and is supposed to reach a new peak around 2027, according to the human design system. We are in the harmonic convergence is really the marking the start of this mutation at a whole different level. And the milestone that we are reaching now, which is 13,000 days, is basically half of this matrix, in which each of the units would be 100 days. So we are right at the heart of the 1320 matrix, and in the noosphere, there is like an information bank or a memory bank called the Psi Bank that has the same structure. And precisely during the Resonant Moon, which is at the center, we are in activating that sequence from 121 to 140 here in the screen. So we are navigating that central axis of the 1320 matrix, which is the measure of human gestation. Mm-hmm. So we are in the birth canal as a species as we speak, and the closing of this current 260-day cycle, which is the 50th since 1987, is kind of the 50% of this process is now coming to synchronization within the fractal layers of this matrix. So what we experienced in 2012 was really the explosion of this process, and that's why the last unit that we see here on the top, on the bottom right corner, which is unit 260, that is when the baby is ready to be born. That was the last 20 years of a process that took around 5,200 years, and that it is part of a larger process of 26,000 years, called the precession of the years. We are speaking about that we entered the sixth sun of consciousness, and the sixth sun is because we already passed through 5 cycles of 13 Bactuns before. Okay. 5 cycles of evolution, and this is also reflected in the human design and gene keys in this mutation, from passing from Homo sapiens sapiens to what is called the Homo sanctus. For Jose Arguelles is the Homo nosphericus, but it's really a new species. A new species is being born out of all these transformation of matter, which was the last Bactun of the 13th Bactun, of the 13th Bactun cycle. Mm-hmm. We are in an acceleration of the process of becoming light, activating our light bodies by simply Richard Rudd says that simply by contemplating these keys and these codes, our DNA is turning on. We are. I think that for me, and I want to hear more about for how it has assisted those who are here in the call, like Y'Shell and Alicia, how this activation coming from the shadow to the city has been experienced, because we are, as a species, we are still operating from our shadows, from our probably more occult and hidden aspects of the human psyche, and contemplating those shadows allows us to shift into a new human being, to a new perception of our own process and our own evolution.
Well, I tell you what, I was going to ask a question actually of Katya, and I brought this particular symbol up, this image we see on the screen, because it does feature the castles over the image of the woman, yes, and the gestation period. And I know Alicia was sharing with us prior to us coming live that Katya, that I know that you have an affinity with the castles in particular. So I also was hoping maybe to hear a little bit from you, as we've heard from Reuben kind of give an explanation of the fractal nature of the Tzolk'in calendar, both a day as well as even 100 days or 20 years. Like there's various fractal ways of looking at this Tzolk'in calendar. But I'd love to invite you, Katya, to speak about the castles and what that brings up for you from an intuitive sense of working with these systems as well.
Yes, thank you so much for asking me. Yes, this is what I love to do for myself and for my relatives, people who I know, and what I received as I mentioned already, that I check first of all where I'm now, where is the person now in 13-year cycle, for example, like the closest cycle. And I can see the energy of the year. Where is the person now? Like in the beginning of the cycle, where the energy just starting to be generated, like when we put the goal, choose the goal for the big cycle, right? When we are in the beginning of the path, and we just started to attract some goals, some ideas into our life purposes in the first year of the cycle, and then step by step, year by year, this energy is becoming more powerful. And coming to the 5th year of the cycle, for example, we already making the turn, 90-degree turn to the next step, and where we already have more, we can see clear the form already. The form is creating of what we're gonna to complete. And to the 9th and 10th year of the cycle, we already can receive the result, to see the plant, what we planted, the seed. And if we did this consciously, if we really work with it, we can see, was it really our soul's purpose? Do we have results? Do we receive what we wanted to have in this cycle? Or we didn't get it? We can see also, was it real, the purpose of our life, our soul wanted this, or even maybe we didn't apply all our power to get this. And at the end of the cycle, 13th year, we can see from above all the picture of this 13-year cycle, and we can already start to prepare for the next one. And this is a powerful year when actually we can start many things at the same time. And this is a year of transition between the birth and the death. When we are ready for something new, when we finish something and ready for the new thing, and this is a year of transition. And the same for 13-day cycle, which is easy also to see and to check. I have, for example, my book, my notebook, when I write down the purpose for 13-day cycle. And I can see how it works. I can see the 5th, the 6th day of their cycle, how the energy is generating. I have more power. And on the 10th day, for example, always I can feel it truly that I'm ready to fulfill everything what I was going to do. Like anything that I want to finish, I try to finish on that day and during this cycle, because it's so powerful. You can feel it inside. You can feel it instead of in the beginning of the cycle when you just check in, oh, okay, maybe I want to do this and this, maybe I can try this, trying to find the way to path And the 13th day of this cycle is always like the finishing, cleaning. Okay, I did this, I fulfilled this. Maybe I want to improve something. And this is, it works. I see it in my life. This is about the cycles, yes. And about the 52-year cycle that I also love to see in person's chart. I check it, and so this is more like the big picture of life. And of course, it's not the end. After 52 years, we continue our life, and in Mexico, maybe Ruben can tell more about it, but I know also that they celebrate, like Mexican people really celebrate 52 years cycle, right? It's like a transition also between the one cycle to another, the big change. And I think the country also, right, last year or this year had this celebration, if I'm not mistaken. Some Mexican teacher told me, and they, so it's burning everything old things, stuff from this previous cycle, and moving into the next. So I can see it in my life. I check it, and as I study, I learn more and more, step by step, Mayan calendar and everything. I'm finding something new every time, going deeper and deeper, all these layers, cycles, synchronicity. And right now, like Alicia also introduced me to Gene Keys and human design, and she helped me to know more about myself. I see synchronicity and all this science. And I started to see more synchronicity in my life, even telepathically. We communicate for sure telepathically, and just receiving some simple science during the day when you see this synchronicity in everything. And I feel like everyone can see it, but it depends on like how much you connected with yourself and with your nature. But everyone can feel it. Everyone has synchronicity in his life. Just depends on where you're now on your path. Yes. So thank you.
Thank you. That's an amazing share. Just given that I'm really hearing you say that there's again, like you said initially when you introduced yourself, as an intuitive approach, and you have an ability then to also guide others to understand where they find themselves in these various mathematical patterns and cycles. I think that's really rich, and I think that's very, very important in terms of people learning, how does this apply? How can I use this in my own life? I love the fact that you also sort of described the ability to do planning using the creative frequency of 13, which in the work with Reuben, we identify as the harmonic factor. So we know 13 is the number of the wave spell, whether it's a 13-day wave spell, a 13-week wave spell, 1/4 of 52 weeks, right? Or the 13-year, 1/4 of a 52-year cycle, is just to see how beautifully all of these patterns, these harmonic frequencies really fit perfectly, exquisitely, elegantly. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's so true, like you get exposed to the nature of nature, everyday magic, everything is synchronicity. Absolutely everything is synchronized. So thank you for sharing that. It feels like a testimony of how it actually works in your life. I think that's rich. And I also want to make comment that in the last slide we showed, we noticed that it was relating to the gestation period in the womb. And so even of late, I've been recognizing that I know with the many women that we've been learning from and talking with about this system, it is always very much an experience of the embodiment that's already coded in women to hold this space. For men, it does feel like it's a much more pursuit of consciousness, because we don't actually literally live with that synchronization in our physiology. So we do tend to come from it from a more heady, we'll say, or consciousness space to be embodied, where I've also been picking up on the fact that women are actually attuned to it from the earth upward. It's like a real coming up from the earth into the body of sorts. Whereas I find as a man who's navigating these codes, it does become a lived day-to-day experience, and yet it wasn't always just inherently there. I learned the codes, and then I basically deliberately synchronized my focus to appreciating these and prioritizing them and their presence in my life, and really tuning myself to it deliberately. Whereas I know many women come to the system and they're like, they feel it inherently, they're already in it. It's not a matter of like adopting the consciousness of it. It's already embodied in a way that I think is really remarkable. And I think also should hopefully encourage other women to really see the beauty and the purpose of returning our attunement to this, I would say, mathematical array. You know, there's some technical things to perhaps learn, but qualitatively just giving oneself the gift of knowing what your codes are will open the floodgates of the journey regardless. So just wanted to mention that. And I would love to invite anybody else who feels something really alive in them they want to share right now. The floor is open, the circle is open. And I'm loving this conversation very much.
Yes, I'm loving it too. So, you know, when Katya is talking about connecting with your nature, well, how can we do that if we're in an inorganic time structure? So step one, step out of the dimension of time as much as possible. We don't even, and you don't know you're in an organic time structure until you know, and now you know. The 1260 time and the busy schedules and the traffic and the full calendars are keeping you from connecting with your nature. It's impossible to do. So I remember when I used to be this type A, get it done, busy all the time, slammed with the calendars, no time for myself. There's no way I could connect with my nature. It's impossible. And you could say, I always say, time is the greatest crime against humanity. It's this inorganic time structure that's brought the corruption that we're experiencing as a planet right now, when we see the degradation of our earth and what's taking place right now, and we're turning that around. So it's every time a being takes that step into bringing themselves into the harmonic factor, into the harmonic time frequency, which is how we're designed. Well, that starts to kind of shift the entire planet. And so, you know, Jose Arguelles wrote a book in the 80s, I think it was, called The Earth Ascending. And so he was talking about the I Ching before human design and gene keys even came about, which is really the basis of the codes before even human design and the gene keys came along. And I'm going to share my little necklace here. I've got this piece of jade that was found here in the earth. I'm not sure who had this piece of jade before. I was honored to receive it, but my love, Eduardo, gave it to me. And then I carry this here with the I Ching and the main 8 codes that are responsible for creating all the 64 codons of DNA. And this is just another little mystical ring that I got from my cousin. But anyways, time is the greatest crime against humanity. So I remember one day, before I ever even knew about this information, I heard one time that time was an illusion, and I was like, well, shit, I don't know how that's true, but let me just kind of play with this a little bit. And I just started, like, you know, when I'd get stressed in the car because I was running late to get to something, I'd say time's an illusion. And I would just take a breath, and I would remember that I'm going to arrive everywhere I need to be exactly on time. Like, these are the basics that you can start to practice before you even study numerical codes or daily practices. You have to start to really identify your relationship with this construct of time, which keeps us locked in this density, right? And so I started to practice that until all of a sudden I literally was catapulted over a rather short period of time, the last 4 years, into an organic nature where I don't even own a phone anymore. There are no alarm clocks. There are no reminders. There's nothing buzzing and beeping and telling me where I need to go. I don't have a calendar. And so I went from the inorganic time structure to connecting back with my nature. Well, what is my nature? It's the nature of her. It's the nature of Gaia, which is within all of us. It doesn't matter what body parts you were born with here, the nature of the mother. And so that's what's really rising within all of us right now. So the inorganic time frequency keeps us out of it, which you could say is the 12 structure. And then the 13 structure brings us back into the harmony. So stepping out of the dimension of time is key. And then I wanted to share something about how I use these cycles. So we're coming up on the finish of a 260-day cycle. So what I like to do is I'll just talk into my iPad. I'll say, what was the date 260 days ago? Well, it was around May 7th, okay? So, but kin 260 would have been May 18th or somewhere around there. Okay, what was happening May 18th for you this year? Go back and look at your phone. Look at what you took pictures of. Look at what you did 9 months ago. What are you about to birth right now in this last 11 days? What did you conceive with the seed of, or maybe you didn't do much of anything and you might be afraid of what you're about to see birth from what you did 260 days ago, but pay attention. First of all, it was the Palladian lineup. Second of all, there were two back-to-back. There was a lunar and a solar eclipse. It was a big time for everyone. And I won't go into what I was seeing there, but I was seeing a big split with artificial intelligence and duality and all of these things. But you can go back. I love to do this and go back and look, what was I doing 260 days ago? What was I studying? Who was I with? What's about to come from that? And it works every time. This is how you start to see how true these things actually work, the fruit of the labor, you could say, or not even the labor, because this isn't work. This is the nature of the system when we finally surrender to it. So I just wanted to share that with that practice, stepping out of the dimension of time and then going back and revisiting, where you've been and what you were doing. And then, well, I mean, if you conceived a child, or if you were doing that 260 days ago, what are you about to push out of yourself? What are you about to birth? And get excited about it. And what a beautiful time if you're not already in this data to start, because you're about to get started on kin number 1. So let's think about it. And then let's prove the system wrong or right by thinking about what you're doing from the beginning. And then let's see what happens in 260 days. I would think that it would be cool if we could all get together 260 days from now and talk about it.
I would love that. I think we should.
I did. I was scrolling back, checking my photos, like you said, 260. And it was Zaki's birthday around that time. And so we were celebrating him. And so that's beautiful, just to, make that conscious and love to connect 260 days from now.
I want to bring in the White Queen because Loidine Arguelles was a big part of my experience, because her birthday, her incarnation, and her leaving this earth were around that time. I have a gecko talking to me, and I was deeply connected to her around that time. I think it was a lunar eclipse, and it was direct with the Pleiades. And she was showing me data and information that I needed to see about her. I felt like I was healing something of hers through my body. My Chiron is Taurus 25 degrees and her sun is 25 degrees Taurus, or somewhere like that. Like we were working together on something. So yeah, it's cool to look at these cycles, and they're undeniable, what you start to pick up with the patterns.
It's very real. Another beautiful synchronicity. 22 is my guide power. And Y'Shell and I together make 142. And I know, Alicia, you mentioned 142 at the beginning of when you were introducing your experience as a near-death experience on kin 142. So that's what she and I combined to make as a frequency.
I was going to say, which also is the supernova 1987A, which is
discovery.
Yeah, Ruben had brought up earlier in the graphics.
I remember you saying that on another call we were on, Y'Shell, and so I knew this was important and intentional. And so this is my son Dyer's birthday. And I'm just going to go into a little interesting synchronicity story about this, because this is how it works. Because when you get in these codes, some of us start to get all crazy about dates and people's kin numbers and birth dates. But Wayne Dyer is a very key pivotal person in my awakening process. And he died on my son's birthday, August 29th. And Wayne Dyer is kid number 222. And anyways, 9 months later, I was having a child directly on Wayne Dyer's birthday, May 10th, which is also your son's birthday. And that was in 142. And that was the day I had my near-death experience. And so very much so, Wayne Dyer is somehow deeply connected to this information and the synchronicities of all of it. But I've started to see the patterns of specific dates, even in the Gregorian calendar, that start to translate. And then also with KINs, it's like, all of this is just to say that you don't even have to get all geeked out on the codes unless you really like to. You don't have to, because the nature of the harmony is already in you, and you just start to trust in the beauty of the perfection, like the flower does when she blooms. Like, nobody has to tell her not to, and she's not afraid to, and she's not thinking, should I or should I not? She's just doing it because that's the spiral of perfection. And so the inorganic time frequencies keep us from the beauty of perfection. And so that's what we're being called into, is like, can we trust the beauty of the perfection of the design of our original divine blueprint to start to unfold when we let go of control?
Absolutely.
I wanted to spiral around again to answer Ruben's question, specifically with regards to the shadow work with the gene keys. I don't remember the question exactly, but with regards to the work, what I recognize in my reflections with just already making conscious what the shadow is within my hologenetic profile, but also when we're pulsing in it in the calendar. So right now, as we've said, we're in gene key 41, which is the start codon, which is the Rave Biogenetic New Year. And so the shadow frequency is fantasy, and the gift is anticipation. And the city, the superpower, as I like to call it, is the emanation. And I have this particular gene key twice in my chart. So I'm definitely have recognized those moments when I have felt anticipation, you know, not so much the fantasy part of it, because in the book, in the gene keys, Richard Rudd talks about the dream, you know, you're in the dream state in that sense, which is the illusion. So I've been following the pulse calendar, and I like to always review the gene keys that we're in, so I can recognize on a personal level and on a collective level, like where we're all at within that, you know, energy, whether it's we're treading in the shadow or we're treading in the gift or in the city. So I feel like I've been using that as a tool for the past several years since I've been aware of the gene keys, and then also, you know, synergistically with the calendar work, knowing that today is lunar moon, you know, and knowing what that, activating the Zolkin calendar and what that means. I love what Katya was saying, how she follows the 13 wave, and each day has a purpose for her to follow. And something to also make conscious with regards to this Biogenetic New Year is what Uru Hu was mentioning in videos with regards to the Rave New Year, is that we, on the Gregorian calendar, those that do follow this New Year's back in December 31st to January 1st, that energy, the energy that the gene keys or the gates that we're in during that time keep us trapped in that shadow frequency and keep us in that loop. So it doesn't give way for us to letting go and releasing, as it does where gate 60 or gene key 60 is for limitation, which is right before 41. So we just got out of gene key 60 or gate 60, which is about purpose, you know, letting go, reviewing everything that we have just, you know, gone through for the year, and, you know, just being able to let go of, you know, what our expectations are. Or here, I have some notes here. I'm gonna just make sure I want to state it correctly. It's like, you know, did you find purpose? Did you find your spirit? Did you have the right allies? You know, who was there for you? So as we're reflecting over the year span, you know, this previous week that we just passed, this is the moment where we're making these observations and reflections, and we're able to let go and make the connections and see if we're on track, or if we are fulfilling, our promise to that ambition, that motivation, that transcendence, like it says, the gate of 60 of limitation is letting go and allowing the transcendence to happen. So we're allowing to let go of the seduction of the mind that puts in front of us, and we're letting go of what, of this insecurity that we may have of being afraid, and the need of taking care of business, and also the not self theme. And when you're in human design, you kind of learn what your not self theme is. In particular, mine being a projector is bitterness. So we also then want to reflect that and let go anything that we've held on to for that year of, feeling bitter, and feel like that's part of like that shadow work too with the human design, and releasing that in that moment, and allowing the new, which is the start codon, of this emanation, this anticipation that we're now, setting forward for this next year going forward, that we're all going to be on track. And then again, to make conscious what we said earlier, is that just knowing that its programming partner for the year is 31, which is the day out of time. It's just like, it's just how powerful, because then that's, I know you guys can share more about that, but it's just they are sister, I feel, sister systems. I'm not quite sure how you would call it, but, just to make conscious that these guys remembered bits and pieces, separately. And now we're all coming together, trying to piece all the puzzles together, the pieces of the puzzle together, so we can, just make it conscious and keep evolving our consciousness and the planet, and getting in alignment with, natural time. And like Alicia was sharing earlier, it's just like, it's and Katya, it's just, it's intuitively, it's already within us. And yeah, thank you. Just kind of went on a tangent there.
I know, and I just want to weave in and add my 2 cents, which is like making conscious these patterns, not only in the 260-day cycle, but in the solar cycle, because I want to honor the fact that it was exactly a year ago, January 22nd, that it was King 144, which is Alicia's birthday. And that King 144 is the yellow magnetic seed. So today, when we were like planning for this broadcast, I made that conscious. It just popped. In the same way that it just popped yesterday, that on January 24th, in 2 days, is Jose Arguelles' solar return, and he's synchronizing with Uru Hu's galactic return. So what a great time to do this broadcast. That was kind of a confirmation from both systems that we were supposed to carry on with this live roundtable, because the 2 vehicles that serve to bring this information to humanity are synchronizing in a couple of days. I don't know how many galactic spins would be Uru Hu, but he's completing one of his 260-day cycles of human gestation, and Jose is completing one of the 13-month cycle of human fertility. So what an amazing time that it was precisely for the conclusion of 50 Solkins of the new time, and for the Chinese New Year, which is the origin of the I Ching and all these binary hexagrams that are present in both systems. It's all there. It's like a beautiful story, a beautiful adventure of evolution that is unfolding, and that we have every day, just little glimpses of what is happening and these deeper layers are being revealed. Also to add to what we were saying about space and time, like Jose, as I mentioned before, said that we are moving in space and evolving in time. And in that same lecture, he said that space is of the senses and time is of the mind. We cannot touch time, we cannot feel time, we cannot taste time, but it's a very subjective or very feminine aspect of our consciousness. And space is very square, it's very easy to interact with, it's very material. And both are right now coming to alignment. The matrix of space and the matrix of time are becoming really, really coherent at the moment. He spoke also about the orders of time, that we have third dimensional time and fourth dimensional time. And third dimensional time is based on measuring these movements of the celestial bodies through space. But there is fourth dimensional time, which is the actual harmonics behind these movements that are not like in the 3D entropic, that they tend to distort over the years, but they are syntropic. They create these points of harmonic resonance that we can make conscious, and in that process help the entire hologram to light up, to make conscious these not only our light body, but the light body of the planet. Every time that we have an aha moment, it's like this rainbow brain of the earth having a small spark that is actually helping all the species to become more conscious about these codes and how they are basically orchestrating the process of evolution that is now taking place.
So with that being said, Ruben, I wanted to actually invite you to describe what we see in this graphic I'm going to put on screen. And I'd also just like to posit the idea that I know we hear the word time and there's a lot of characterizations about time. I would like to posit that maybe what we're really talking about is timing, that time seems to be such a static notion, yet timing is always happening. And so as we're actually tuning into timing. Maybe the word time is a bit of a, an obstacle, whereas perhaps timing is a better way to characterize the action of synchronization, that everything is in synchronization, and that we're at varying levels or stages of being attuned or aware of the fact that everything is in synchronization, meaning there's a beautiful divine harmonic order to the whole thing. And as we gather the tools and lenses, then we get to enjoy the ride. We get to ride this wave and not necessarily become caught up in the undertow of the wave. For those that may be caught up at that sort of a trap, as Y'Shell was describing at the end of the Gregorian calendar, that sort of shadow trap that we seem to see this repeat and this inability to get out of for one reason or another. But with that said, I want to reflect on this graphic really quick and invite you to share with us. This is a beautiful graphic that I think is very timely, keeping in the theme of time, as it were. But please go ahead and maybe just guide us through this as a map. As Katya said, the 13-day cycle is very significant. Now, hopefully you all are able to see this on the screen.
Time, the word time almost sounds fixed, where timing sounds there's more flow and flexibility
exactly,
to it.
Exactly. So maybe that's a new invitation. We'll call this timing. Timing is everything.
Yeah, timing.
Or it's nothing, right? But
Yes.
feel free, because this elaborates a little bit on the 13,000 day marker. You mentioned the fractal of that from the new dispensation of time, June 23rd, 1987, right?
Yes.
And so here we find ourselves now 13,000 days since then. We're in that window right now, being that we're here on 249. So just in a few days, that's a very significant thing to make conscious. Plus, as you said, the 13 moon midpoint of the year, that also aligning with Jose Arguelles's birth anniversary every year. There's a lot of auspicious things happening in this 13.
Now too.
Yeah, there's a lot of auspicious synchronicities, obviously, in this last of the wave spells for the current Zolkin cycle. And anybody feel free to remark on this. I just thought it would be helpful to bring this image to the screen for folks viewing this and hearing
Yeah.
some of the factors we're throwing out there, that numbers or concepts.
Yeah, well, this is like a new experiment that I have been launching since the Earth waste bill. Just decided to create like an infographic for each waste bill to see which were the highlights of each cycle. And I never know really what is going to pop when I start these graphics. It just is an invitation for me to go and review notes and review stories from 260 days ago on harmonic convergence and see what pops, like Alicia mentioned before. And well, actually this was not the last version, because as days were progressing towards this broadcast and the start of the waste bill of the star, that is the last 13-day cycle of the Tzolk'in, and started yesterday. And more events were becoming conscious. We have also we added in the last one that you can see in harmonic convergence, this comet that is a green comet that is going to make it closest approach to Earth right before the closing of this cycle is included there. I also included the birthday of Osiris Wages and the Chinese New Year, and the planetary alignment that is taking place on this day. So if we examine in sequence, in chronological sequence, what is happening, we can see the perfect alignment of different layers of cycles. The first super new moon, I learned yesterday through an article that you shared, that this super moon was very special because it was the closest approach of the moon in around 900 years. That was a new part of the information that popped yesterday. And today, of course, is the start of not only the Biogenetic New Year, but also the Chinese New Year, as we mentioned before. All the planets going direct, with Uranus going direct today also. And then the next 2 days we are at the midpoint of the year. That means that in exactly 26 weeks, we will be on the out of time and the end of the 13 moon year, navigating on the human design system, or the pulse calendar, the gene key, and the colon 31, which is the programming of this 41, and which happens to be the mirror of the number 13, 31, 13. And yeah, on the 5th day, which is I love that this is taking place on King 252, which is Martin Luther King birthday, galactic return, and is the 5th day of this cycle, because we are closing 50 Tzolk'ins at the end of the cycle, and on day 5 of this 13-day cycle, we are reaching that 13,000 day milestone. And I did like a special note on this, and we added the Hunakus, the icons of this, what is called also the galactic butterfly or Hunapku, the one giver of movement and measure, which is the most basic reflection of the beauty of the cycles of time, because every leap year on the Gregorian calendar, which is February 29th, we don't count that day within the Tzolk'in. We make a small pause, a hiatus, and this day is called 00 Hunapku. So if we were to reconcile these 50 Tzolk'ins, the last 8 days of this 13-day cycle will be those 8 leap years that we didn't count. That's why if we go and we use a time calculator, we will find that from June 23rd, 1987, when this count, the galactic count started, day one of Solkin 1, to the 2nd of February of this year, which happens to be day 33 of the Gregorian calendar, we are completing 13,008 days, and 13 plus 8 is 21, which happens to be the number that defines the Hunapku. We have 20 solar seals plus 1, which is the Hunapku, that is the totality of the cosmology. So Jose also defined it as if 20 is the number of totality, 21 is the unity of totality. And we are basically in this cycle wrapping up 13,000 day cycle since the beginning of this new consciousness on the planet. So we can, because we are reaching that milestone, we may feel an acceleration going on, and this acceleration may be felt within the next days. We already see how even the Gregorian calendar is a main protagonist of this cycle, because on the 10th day and on the 12th day, which is planetary Earth and crystal storm, we are completing important milestones. The Kin 257 is 618 Solkins from the Papal Bull that gave origin to this Gregorian calendar, was signed on February 24, 1582. And on the 12th day, we complete 14 Solkins of that event that I mentioned at the beginning, which is the resignation of the Pope Benedict XVI, which happens to pass on the last day of the Gregorian year 2022, exactly 260 days from his last solar return. So that was we took that as a confirmation that the redemptive process that started in 2013 after 2012 is an ongoing process, and we can see more of these old patriarchal systems coming to dissolution, or at least to an integration in terms of being able. Right now, the beauty of doing these graphics is that we can come to terms with these, as Alicia mentioned, this crime of time, this distortion that has been embedded in our consciousness, and right now we are kind of at the end, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, that we can really be feeling like these contractions of a new paradigm coming, and a new human coming into being.
Absolutely. Thank you for that descriptive layout for us very much. And we certainly encourage people tuning in on the YouTube live to go to the link that Y'Shell posted there, so you can see the updated version of a graphic, as apparently I had a little bit of an older graphic, but that's also testament to the fact that, as Reuben stated, these synchronicities are emerging like in real time. And so sometimes we have to catch up to ourselves. But I think I'd like to turn the conversation a little bit back toward Uru Hu a little bit, given that I know with the Rave calendar and with the human design system, there has been an awareness made by Uru Hu when he was yet here on the planet about the coming marker of the year 2027. And I'm going to share a little bit of video to set that up, but then I would have loved to, maybe as we come to the close of this sharing today, I think it's appropriate that we do take a little moment to dive in and listen to some words in Uru Hu's own voice about this window, 1615 to 2027. I know that's the first video. I was going to play number 1, right?
The first video talks about gene key, or excuse me, gate 49 and 55
Which was what Alicia was sharing about as well.
earlier, right? And then the second video actually talks about that global cycle of the
Okay.
1615 to the 2027.
Okay, so if that's okay with everybody, I'll just play these clips to set it up and just give us some context. But thank you. And that's video one then. I'll do that.
Yes.
Okay, thanks everybody again for tuning in from wherever you're tuning in from and taking this journey with us right here. Let's see how this works. Okay. All right, y'all let me know. And here we go.
Hello, and welcome to Rave History. Today we're going to take a look at genetics. In fact, we're going to take a look at a very, very special codon. That codon is called histidine, and it is the histidine codon that is at the center of the transformation that is about to take place in humanity. The histidine codon carries two agents, that is, two representatives within the body graph. The 55th gate, the gate of abundance, where the mutation in 2027 is actually going to take place. And the 49th gate, the gate of revolution, where histidine is having a deep impact and mutating the way in which the 49th gate operates. Let's take a look at this for a moment and understand what's going on. First of all, in terms of this date, 2027, and 2027 is the close of a cycle. That is, we are in a cycle that's called the cross of planning, and this cycle has been in existence since 1615, and it's going to come to an end in 2027. We're going to enter into a new cycle. Coincidental to that, this is the point at which our solar plex system, our emotional system, is going to go through a major mutation. It's a mutation that's been building since 1781. Basically, the solar plex center, which is often referred to as an awareness center or so-called awareness center, has been dominated by its motor wave throughout its history. Yet both in terms of the knowledge of human design and science, science has recognized that there is more neural activity in the solar plexus than in the brain itself, and can't quite figure out why there is so much intelligence in the gut, so to speak. The fact of the matter is that we are about to go through a major mutation of the solar plex. It is one of the key ingredients to the emergence of the true nine-centered rave. This solar plex center, no longer dominated by the powerful motor, will be able to display its underlying awareness. It is this underlying awareness in the emotional system that is going to emerge in 2027. Now, emerge in the sense that there are those that are going to be born with, those who are born after 2027 are going to carry with them this transformation in the way in which these particular gates operate and the way in which the solar plex itself operates. Think about the 49th gate. The 49th gate is so deeply connected to our way of life. It is deeply connected to our way of life because it is part of tribal circuitry. We have been living in the background frequency of the cross of planning. And the cross of planning is rooted in the definition of the 4037, the channel of community. The 49th gate, along with the 19th gate, forms the rest of the stream of this particular tribal area. Everything about the 49th gate is that it is the bedrock of the tribe because it brings the tribe's principles. The 49th gate is, the sacrificer or the sacrificed. The 49th gate is the controller of the resources. We have just gone through a very, very traumatic experience on this planet of having Neptune transit the 49th gate. That transiting of the 49th gate that began in 2007 completely undermined the financial institutions that we had developed on this planet. That the resources and the way in which the resources were going to be distributed was going to be altered entirely. We are all witnesses of that. The 49th gate is more than that. It is the place in which we are satisfied with our needs for territory, our needs for partnerships, our needs for God. All of that is rooted in the 49, and the 49 is being deeply, deeply mutated. One of the things that you can see in the world around us is the rise of fundamentalism on one side and the rise of secularism on the other side. This is very much a phenomena of the transformation taking place in the solar plex, and specifically the transformation in the 49th gate. There is a deep reaction to the disruption of the way in which our tribal practices have operated and the way in which we have been bound together. The 55th gate, abundance, is a deeply individual gate. It is a gate that is about the potential spirit, and it is this potential spirit that can awaken and will, in essence, truly awaken post-2027. Histidine. This is where the great change in humanity is at work. In the 49th gate, in the 55th gate, and we will all wake up to that story very soon.
All right, histidine mutation. The histidine mutation by Uru Hu, and we have one other short clip we'll share, and then I want to turn the conversation over to Alicia to provide some insights, as you were kind of mentioning 4955 earlier, and then, you know, we're going to wrap the conversation up here in the next 20 minutes or so altogether, but I thought it might be a great way to take us home at this point. 1 second, I'll cue up the other video.
Hello, and welcome to Rave History. Today we're going to take a look at global cycles. And global cycles are rooted in the Hindu Brahmin astrological understanding of the precession of the equinox and its importance. In other words, our background movement, the vast movement of the way in which we operate relative to the solar system and the galaxy. The fact is that the precession of the equinox marks vast movements of time. And in these vast movements of time are values, that is, background frequencies, that in understanding them explain so much about the various ages that we move through. In human design, they are called global cycles. And this measurement of the precession of the equinox is measured uniquely through the Rave mandala and through the operation of the G-center, through a lock and key system through the G-center that, in fact, in the way in which it works, connects to the entire mandala, to the wheel itself. We have been in a global cycle that began in 1615. It's a long time ago. It's called the cycle of the cross of planning. It's called the cross of planning because the precession of the equinox, that its primary point was in the 37th gate, the opposition being the 40. The 37 and the 40 are the fundamental arm of the cross of planning, along with the 9th gate and the 16th gate. We are living in a cross of planning cycle. Now, because of the precession of the equinox, it moves against the grain. That is, it moves in a retrograde fashion. It is moving according to what we would call a clockwise motion. So it is moving backwards through the wheel, backwards through the lines. The global cycle that we are in began when the precession of the equinox was in the 37th gate in the 6th line. It entered into the 1st line in 1960. It will close this cycle in 2027. Now think about this cross of planning. A background frequency is very, very deep and profound. And it is a frequency that is there, that guides us and shapes us, and has been doing so for hundreds of years. Coincidental to 1615 was the enormous explosion of what became known as the industrial age. The cross of planning, the 4037, is the channel of community. It is this channel of community that establishes our fundamental codes for the way in which our civilizations have developed. It is the bond of the community to protect itself, to have its religion, to be able to have its resources, to defend itself. All of the things that became the bedrock of what are our modern civilization and the way in which we operate relative to each other. The fact is that the 4037 brought the contractual agreement between those that govern and those that are governed. It is the 4037 in its inherent bargain that has created the ability for human beings to live in vastly, vastly overpopulated environments and still manage to do so with some kind of, well, peacefulness. Along with the 4037, the 9 and the 16, two logical gates. One of them a gate of great detail, and the other, the gate of enthusiasm, the 16, all about our potential for talent. We have been living in an age in which the detail of talent has created the secular knowledge that is there to protect us. The rise of, the secular godhead, medicine as an example, science as an example, the industrialization of the world. The way in which, for example, we have been educated, the way in which educational institutions were developed, all of the background frequencies that we take for granted, the way in which our society operates, the way in which we, develop in these societies, the structures that are there, the institutions that are there. There is a vanity in human beings that assumes that these are theirs, that we built it, that we wanted to build it, and that we're going to look after it in the future. And it's not the case. This cycle, this cross of planning cycle, that began with the words of Shakespeare, this cross of planning cycle will come to an end in February of 2027. And a whole new cycle will begin on this plane. It is going to change our world. It is going to change it greatly. The inherent bargain that binds us all, that bargain inherent in the 4037, is a bargain that's breaking down. You can see it in the institutions of the world today. You can see that they're beginning to sink into the sand. One cycle coming to an end, another one will soon begin.
All right. How about that? Straight from Uru Hu's own heart and soul. Right there. February 2027. That is definitely a window of timing that we have to look forward to, as he was identifying the deconstruction, it seems, of that 4037 bargain.
What's interesting is that Gene Key 49 is like the second week of February, and 55 falls in the third or fourth week.
So
conscious
right on. Yeah, thank you.
for the freedom allowed.
Freedom allowed. That's right. So absolutely, I would love to invite Alicia to offer any reflections on the video clips we just saw. We have a little bit of time left here. We'd love to get some final remarks from everybody before we do wrap up. But thank you so much. Take it away.
Yeah, I've got a bunch popping. Well, first of all, I want to say Katya and I both have the same incarnation cross. We are what's called the cross of contagion. Now, the cross of contagion is an individual mutation. And the way I understand it, it's like we're almost leading the mutation through our body. So when I heard about 2027, I'm like, that's a long time away. Like, this shit's happening right now. Like, I am the future human being already. And so you're getting a glimpse of the reality of the future, because we're living in these spirals of time, and we've already kind of been mutating. So we have the children are in the hizzy. I want to go back to something really quick about the 3740 channel as well, because if we translate that to the language of the gene keys, which wasn't out when Ra was doing this. By the way, you're hearing my daughter River Amrita, who is the 21 red galactic dragon. She was conceived on kin 1 and then born on the 21. But anyways, I want to talk about the 40, which is one of the 7 sacred seals. It's sacred seal number 1. It's the final seal of the 7 sacred seals, because we're thinking of the incarnation of our highest essence of the being, of the Christed form, if dare I say, the true Christ, not the one that the Roman Vatican Church has been hijacking for 441 plus however many years. And it's coming down into the physical form. But the programming partner of it is the 37. And come, you want to see my friends? Come. It's the big cool. And so the 37 is about family alchemy, and it's about the ascent of the family. And it is about also the true pole flip. So we've maybe heard, if we've ever heard of Edgar Cayce, which, by the way, when I looked up his kin for the first time, he was called the Sleeping Prophet. I plugged his birthday in the kin decoder here in Costa Rica, and an earthquake happened at the moment I put his birthday in the kin and found out it was the 54 white lunar wizard, which is, I think, my telepathic frequency or something. Very interesting experience for me. Oh, thank you, babe. Eduardo just wanted to bring this special little stone that we have here that we call the prophecy stone. Okay, anyways, so back to, the pole flip. Edgar Cayce would always talk about pole flipping, which I believe is taking place right now. In the 37, it talks about the true pole flip. And what it's talking about is how the divine feminine is rising in us all, especially in the man, because that's where the deficit of the feminine is at. So the shadow is weakness. So I'm talking to the men out there, or the women, that the shadow of weakness, it's like, where have we been taught it's weak to be soft? It's weak to be relaxed. It's weak to not have a plan, whatever it might be. What do you have here? You have some oil from Mexico, mint and myrrh. Okay, so anyways, if you have a Gene Keys book, read 37, but I want to read this really quick because I think it's important, because the 37 also talks about the fall of the patriarchy. By the way, on the Gregorian calendar on January 1st this year, I was in a Catholic church. We were just walking through to check out the bell and show the kids. And they invited me to sing at the church. And I sang hallelujah for their New Year ceremony as they were opening up the first day of the New Year. And they had no idea that the Palladians were here. So we had Palladians in the church on a serious mission on January 1st this year, because it's 441 years, right? Since this crime against humanity, this false time structure. Okay, let's talk about this really quick. So we're talking about the great paradox emerging through the 37th city, because we're closing this cycle out. The divine feminine will primarily enter the world through men via the power of the mother. So the mother will rise in the father. And I always say the mother's been taken out of the church. If you think about it, these churches have the father, but not the mother. Mary's been kind of just hanging out in the background. The collective imbalance of the feminine archetype is not to be found in women, but in the men. And the counterbalance to this is the rising of the masculine force of independence burgeoning in women. It is through women's independence a new social structure will be born in the world that will place the early upbringing of children before all other factors. When children are nurtured by mothers and fathers are properly supported rather than torn apart due to social tensions, children will come into the world emotionally balanced. The 37th city of tenderness is the natural climate that surrounds all parents and children. When boys are brought in the world surrounded by the support and tenderness, their feminine side will no longer be compromised. And the world as we see it will begin to change as these boys grow into emotionally balanced men. Conversely, it's through the future young girls that great social change will be brought into the world. Energetically speaking, it's the feminine that carries the vision of the synthesis and the masculine that'll build it. And this is the generalized blueprint of our future society. It'll be a world in which the masculine principle serves the feminine principle. So what we are seeing now is not a decline of the family unit, but a complete redefining of what family really means. Family is a structure that creates an aura of tenderness across the planet, empowering individuals and supporting communities simultaneously. In the future, family will no longer be an isolated tribal phenomenon, but a collective breath pattern that unites all human beings. And this is the future that is coming. It is the same vision the Christ held as the natural state of humanity. It's what we refer to as the kingdom of heaven. And so what we're experiencing in our reality right now is a synthesis of the seven of our, I'm living in Katya's house right now. All seven of us added together are the 22, by the way. And so our children who are trilingual, her children speak Russian, English, and Spanish, born in Madagascar and Costa Rica with Russian roots. We're starting to see the future of what family will look like and how that's going to be synthesized. So we're just a glimpse a little bit ahead of time of what's going to come, but to understand that this mutation is unavoidable. It's happened, it's been initiated, and now the 49 and the 55 are being turned on like acidic supernova within the cells of each and every one of us. Now the 55 and the 49 are the shadow of reaction and victimization. So you can start right now and ask yourself, where are your shadow patterns of reaction? And where are your shadow patterns of victimization? And the victimization that they're talking about is the victimization of the emotional body. And so you're looking at that, and that eventually leads you to freedom when you can understand how to operate this organic technology. So in the past, we've been controlled by the emotional body, which is the lower astral body. And what we're moving into as we galactivate, as we turn on this DNA, and we're no longer a victim of the emotional body, is we turn on the light body. The light body cannot operate when we're in the emotional body. Eventually, the lower astral plane mutates and we have to open up these 7 sacred seals to turn on the light body, the Buddhic body, which is what the 31, by the way, because we're in the 41 right now. So we've got to look at the programming partner too. And I had opened it up and I wrote a note and it said, the great initiatic leap from the 4th causal body to the 5th Buddhic body, the voice box of the divine. We're moving from the shadow of arrogance to the gift of leadership, to the city of humility. And just real quick, because I feel like what we're doing is we're giving an activation of the planetary light body right now. How do you turn on your light body? Well, first, you have to find yourself in merciless forgiveness. So if you're holding on to any resentments to anyone for any reason, like if Jesus could hang on the cross and be killed or persecuted and say, forgive them all, they know not what they do, then we must be able to do the same thing. So I'm just going to open up the 5th seal of forgiveness, which is gene key 4, the programming partner of the 49. The 5th seal is open through the 4th city of forgiveness. As one of the great involving cities going inside, cities of grace, forgiveness has a special purpose to work its way backwards into the collective DNA of humanity, releasing the many karmic blocks that plague the various gene pools. The 5th seal is specifically targeted to heal the patterns of unconscious guilt upon which karma is built. Guilt is a kind of karmic debt which exists between one person and another, or even between one race and another. As the power of forgiveness works its way into the human genome, so many ancestral curses will finally be lifted. So we are all a key part in breaking these ancestral curses and identifying our own unconscious patterns of guilt. This seal in particular has the capacity to create world peace. Sign me up in this, mother. As individuals and whole nations, forgive others the debts they are owed. The grace that comes with forgiveness has unprecedented power and brings a sense of true justice back to humanity. Forgiveness is a direct manifestation of the 5th body, the Buddhic body, which has the capacity to literally burn karma out of our DNA. At a collective level, the releasing of all this world karma will bring an end to war. So, I always like to say, all in favor of ending war on the planet, say aye. And, all in planet, that's what the 7 sacred seals in the gene keys is all about: ending poverty, ending war, healing human sexuality, changing the way we use money on the planet, We're healing the wounds of guilt, healing the wounds of shame, healing the wounds of rejection. So that's the power of this book. In Revelations, it talks about another book. It doesn't say what it was or where it came from, but it talks about another book. And I believe that book was this book, which is deeply connected to our physiology. So there's no one that this mutation isn't going through. And it's, you know, kind of like the way that a tree at some point, let's just say we're talking about seeds being planted and the flowering and all of this. So at some point, the whole tree, like even if a first fruit comes, which you could say we're modeling here, eventually the whole tree in the same season must fruit, right? And so that's what I sense is taking place on a planetary level in the blink of an eye, in a flash. This is very prophetic in nature. I'm imagining, could we all, if we'd like to imagine that we could wake up one day and everyone starts to have their memory turned on. I mean, this is going deeper into the teachings of the hollow mind perceiver and the idea that we have compartmentalized memories, and the memories that are tuned into the Psi Bank memory plates that are here in this earth. Maybe we need we are the earthquake that's taking place right now to turn on this memory within ourselves. So that's, I mean, I could go on forever, but I don't think the kids are really going to allow us to. But I do, before we leave or now, I want to sing my Hunab Ku song that I love to sing. So it can be at the very finish. Oh, River wants to sing it. Can we sing Hunab Ku?
Please go for it.
Here, let me get the rattle over here. Do you want to do it, River?
Activating our galactic DNA with River.
Activating.
Hey.
And Taisia over here.
Hey,
She's
hey.
37 Red Earth. She was born in Madagascar.
Wonderful.
All the divine feminine here, the future, these angels right here. Treat and honor your children like the angel star seeds that they are, that came to bring in these new codes, and stop trying to teach them the old stuff because they know the new stuff. And we let them teach us because they are the masters. So we serve them like the royalty that they are, all of us and our children. We put the children before anything else because they have the codes. So Ayum Hunab Ku. Ayum Hunab Ku. Eva Maya Ema Ho. Ayum Hunab Ku. Eva Maya Ema Ho. Hold on, we're gonna sing. Look. Ayum Hunab Ku. Eva Maya Ema Ho. Ayum Hunab Ku. Eva Maya Ema Ho. Ayum Hunab Ku. Eva Maya Ema Ho. Hunab Ku. Eva Maya Ema Ho. From the land of coconut milk, because we're vegan over here, coconut milk and honey.
Beautiful, bellissima. So wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, this has been just such a beautiful and I think just spectacular in its own way, a spectacular commemoration of this important marker. And, you know, so grateful for making this conscious and weaving together the magic of these codes and lenses that we can encourage other people to go discover for themselves what they resonate with. You know, there's no one way to enter this galactic stream. There's innumerable ways to do so. And so, you know, I would love to invite any closing remarks. Reuben, would you like to offer any closing remarks? We'll go around the round table for that. If you'd like to offer any closing insights or remarks.
Yeah, thank you. Just to give thanks to really the divine intelligence, the Hunab Ku intelligence that is orchestrating this process and bringing us together to make this timing, this auspicious timing conscious, so that more people around the planet can also tap into this new wave of energy that is arriving to the planet. We have a lot of also solar activity happening, which is our star is awakening. And what an amazing way to enter these last 13 days of the Solkin, which is the energy of the star, which is all about beautifying art and elegance and having the presence of children blessing this transmission at the end in a very organic way, as all sacred is very organic. And inviting everyone to really go deep during this cycle and examine give like a small recap of their lives and what they really envision for humanity in the future, because as Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. So it's so important to imagine a new future, because we are being presented with so many narratives that are not like the dreams that we want to experience in the world. So the children really embody those dreams, and their innocence and their purity is a testimony of the sacredness of the human race, and that we are here not to destroy the planet, but we are here to beautify the planet. We are part of this, as Jose Arguelles said, we are part of a larger plan of cosmic evolution, and our role here at this time is just make of the earth a work of art. So I invite everyone to really imagine and feel inspired to see what they want to create in this new in the next 13,000 days or the next 260 days, and how they envision themselves and how they envision the planet. It's very important to have like a collective dream that is aligned with the highest dream that evolution has planned for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
A few words, as my kids let me to say.
Of course.
I want to tell two things. First is that time is the main treasure what we have, and like my teacher also says that we have about 100 years when we have our spacesuit that we wear, and then we put this suit into a box or some kind of that, and we live in this reality. So this is a time when we really start to be grateful and to consciously use this time as we have here, because only in this body here we can experience this life. I love to work with body, so my work is to connect with the body and to connect body and soul, to provide the energy, to reveal the energy in the body, and to be a guide for the people to unlock their energy, their Kundalini energy, their life force. And I understand very well how it's important to so that only in this body, in this reality, we can have this experience, and the next experience can be also the beautiful and amazing, but it will be the next one, right? And only right now in this present moment we can feel all the beauty of the life of this present moment. And the other thing what I want to tell is about kids, that we experienced it with Alicia also. She started to teach my kids, to show them some simple examples of numerology, of counting the letters, so in Mayan science, and my kids so quickly, like my son, start to repeat and count, and he really learns so fast. And my teacher also doing experiments and trying to show kids a new way of counting time instead of Gregorian time, and how we can implement, how we can integrate into the school of the new age. And this is so important. And yes, I'm grateful to Alicia also for helping us. Thank you so much. Thank you for this
Thank you.
beautiful
You beautiful lady
activation.
and beautiful children.
I want to share something too. Also, yes, the galactic mathematics has been super fun. By the way, I want to share one other synchronicity. What is that big book? Is it here? The other day, someone stopped by our house. They have no idea what we study, what we think about, talk about. And it's one of the men here. He said, oh, this man just moved out of his house and he left a suitcase full of books. Would you like this book? Look at this book. It's so heavy. I mean, it has so much beautiful art and history and information. And this, we've been drawing the runes of the second creation, and we've been, me and her son, and math, the Mayan mathematics and all of the glyphs. And, you know, it's like, what are the chances? This was like a golden gift. Like, we're here, we're at the top of the pyramid. In fact, we went and visited some pyramids here. Well, a pyramid that a monk built here where I think it was a reverse portal, but that's another story. I want to read this really quick. It's about the 41. The shadow frequency is really marked by feedback loops that keep us in states of suffering. We get stuck in a certain pattern of doing things, and it goes on feeding the same behavior. Anticipation looks for the breakout, senses the time and place for a breakout, and can therefore provide completely new experiences, entirely new cycles for people. So the 41 is the only code that is a start codon, and it's literally the codon that rewrites your DNA, the ACTG, like it's the rewriting of the code. We're in it right now. It's the ring of origin. It's all on its own. And we're in it, and you have an opportunity, we have an opportunity to break out of the same old patterns. If you're feeling stuck, if you're doing the same old stuff, if you're finding yourself in the suffering, you have to make this choice to make that step. For me, it was breaking out of my environment. It was completely letting go of an old version of myself and allowing that to happen. And then I just want to read the codon ring of origin, which is the initiator. The ring of origin plays a remarkable role within the human genetic matrix, relating to what is known in genetics as the start codon. It operates like a front door key into the code itself. It is the marker in the genetic script from where all life springs, the prime emanation. Every single start codon inside every single cell of your body. So you're imagining every cell of your body right now. There's a start codon in every single cell of your body right now. And we're going to the molecular atomic level of every single cell, and we're starting something new in it right now. We're writing a new genetic script. So every single start codon inside every single cell of your body is electromagnetically linked to each other. This is the foundation of the holographic body, which in turn is linked electromagnetically to the holographic universe. Nested in the heart of the codon ring matrix sits the 41st gene key, the ring of origin, pulsing with the source code that it then transmits throughout the fractal network of your body and the universe. Okay, so that's all for us over here. Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you read that, because I wanted to as well, but I'm grateful you did it.
That's perfect. Hey, River, yay.
One thing that comes up for me is that, like, what is next, you know, and when we're talking about this being like 441st cycle that we've been in the Gregorian calendar, it's like, when can we have the conversation of like, when do we stop doing it? When do we, stop giving that power to something, that we've just kind of voluntarily or blindly, or just because our ancestors, our grandfather, or their grandparents have been doing this for so long, where we're kind of just in like autopilot, like, oh, okay, we have this holiday, we have to celebrate it. Oh, we have to do this. Here's this. It's like, when do we stop and pause and be present with, like, is this what we're supposed to do? Like, does this feel right? So just, want to normalize that. Like, this has been going on. This was not out of my own volition that I chose to do. So like, I'm choosing to not do it, and have been transitioning and using the 13 months or 13 moon 28-day calendar system, and teaching the young children, because like the ladies have shared, like, it's important that they have the codes already. They came in here like as we all did, but we signed that contract of amnesia, and we have to remember that's part of our purpose here, in our work, is to remember who we are and why we're here, and wake up from this illusion. As you were saying, everything is illusion. I always just say, I don't give consent to it. So, so I'm not giving away my power to something else. So it just, I want to be able to normalize this topic of this Gregorian calendar. Like, this is not something that's natural. And of course, we've been able to synthesize it and use other calendars, because like all the calendars are, as we've said, like all the calendars are, I can't think, they're all right and they're all wrong, but they're all right. They all work together in some fractal way. They all end up aligning up at some point. So anyways, I just makes me think of that when because we're talking about it normally, because we're already engaged in it and understanding of these systems and where we're at on the scale of things. But for someone new, it's like, when do they get to have that aha moment? And it's like, aha, this is right. Why am I celebrating this holiday? Why am I making a New Year's resolution when, is this really New Year's, for my calendar, my natural timing? Anyways, that's just my reflection. It's like, what's next, guys? How do we help people? Because I also planted the seeds at my son's school. Like, I really wanted him to be homeschooled. Sorry. I really wanted him to be homeschooled, but I, with this whole parentings, you have to make some type of sacrifices, and it's like finding the best school that aligns with what I find important. And so by talking to the principal and planting the seeds of this calendar system to make it conscious, that, hey, this is what I've been teaching my son. This is, I think important. I think maybe that you should take a moment to take a look at this, because we all, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I'll just sum up everything I'm hearing. I love everything everybody is saying. And, I think the demonstrating, as Alicia and Katya are pointing out, they're living into the future already. It's future now. This is a demonstration of what this future can and likely will look like. And everybody's invited. That's the point. And everybody's in their own time also. So I'm not really so concerned with when anybody gets it. Because if we all take a moment and reflect on however long ago we got decoded, it happened as a result of our organic process of our own path. Each of us got decoded by the grace. We got decoded, and it's brought us to the moment now. But I also think by even having this conversation, we are normalizing it. We're putting this out in the ether.
Thank you.
People all over the world are tuning in. We don't have any idea the measure of our impact, but we don't need to even bother with taking time to be concerned about the measure of our impact. Our job is just to simply do it, live it, be it, right, and celebrate it. So for me, this is as real as it gets. We're celebrating the Biogenetic New Year. We're doing that. We're publicly displaying our celebration of the Biogenetic New Year. And folks who want to learn more would absolutely be encouraged to follow up with anybody they see on this conversation. And with that said, I'd like to ask Alicia, how can people follow up with you, for example, because I know you offer Zoom recordings and classes, you go live on Facebook. So please share with folks how they can follow up with you.
Yeah, Gosh, I just love hearing all y'all. I'm so glad that we got together for this. I'm very excited for the future for humanity, because I think when you remove the dimension of time, things start to speed up. And I anticipate, as we're in the codon of this,
Yes.
that things are about to move very freaking quick. They can move as quick as you want them to. No time, no space here. You can find me on Facebook. That's the only place you can find me at, Alisha Young Hall. And to give you another glimpse in the future, I haven't had a bank account for a year. There is no logging in to pay bills or logging in to check my bank accounts. There's no logging in to check balances and stuff. I haven't had a phone for 8 months. My partner doesn't have a phone. He hasn't had a phone for almost 2 years. Like, we're living totally by synchronicity. We have no plans, and we have proven this thing right. It is precise. It is perfect. It is the channel of romance 3955, which is serious liberation and freedom. And so I sometimes get on live and just transmit when things come through. I do galactivations. Basically, I've never advertised or ran a business with this thing. I do everything by cosmic donation right now through PayPal. Even though I don't have a bank account, I have people help me get the donations. But that's my role here, is to be in the presence. And then whoever ends up coming to me, it's because we're destined to work together. I don't go looking for you. You find me and we do this thing. And you can find Katya also on Facebook, Katya. You'll see her on my friends list too. And we're like, if you're here in Costa Rica, like, we're about to talk about we're going to have a circle of consciousness and ecstatic dance on the 28th. So in case anybody's around, but eventually I want to plant the seed of the vision though. Right? Because I just wrote this earlier. I was imagining these ideas of these self-sustainable communities where eventually you even step out of money altogether. Could you imagine if everything you needed was grown here, or we traded and you had everything, and we weren't thinking about, mortgages and buying more houses and buying more cars and paying more bills. Could you imagine being one with nature again, where you're not getting another set of tires? You even know where those tires go? You know where all those tires go? They're not biodegradable, right? So stepping out of it's a step-by-step process, right? But we're showing the way, and I don't know what the creation of the new self-sustained communities look like, but I've already pretty much stepped out of the currency of paper into the energetic. But I was just imagining today, just for fun, I imagined what would it be like if there was a retreat for families where they could come and totally like get out of the calendar, get off their phones, because even kids have technology now, which my kid doesn't have technology because I don't have technology. I mean, I do have this old iPad hanging around until it dies. I don't know if I'll ever get anything again. But could you imagine what it would be like if families could come and experience nature, and with other kids that don't have technology, that are eating fruits off trees, that are jumping around on rocks barefoot and splashing in rivers and going into the ocean and rescuing turtle eggs from the sea turtles that are coming up and laying their eggs? Like, could we give these experiences to other people? This is just a vision that was dropping in. Maybe that's a vision for giving people a glimpse of this world. It's like taking yourself, just giving yourself some time. Instead of it, my vacations used to be about where am I going to go and what restaurants are there. I'm going to have some drinks and I'm going to eat some good food, and that's my vacation. And now it's like, could you imagine a vacation where nobody was on technology and everybody was doing drumming and singing and dancing and fires and connecting with nature and birds and monkeys? That's the reality that we have here. Cleaning up the diet a little bit, because the food and the desires of the material world keep us locked in the lower astral plane and don't allow us to ascend into the light body. These are facts we need to understand. If we're talking about the glory of the light body, we have to pay attention to the density, the weights that are keeping us from ascending into the light. And it has to do with our attachment to the material world. So being in the world and not of it. So yeah, that's the last of that. I guess that's enough.
Well, we love that vision, and we love the imagination that is issuing forth, and definitely that feels again more like the living into the future, the now and future. So perhaps there's an opportunity for us to collaborate to support seeing people come down there to the 0 point where you all are and experiencing it for themselves. And I would also say, I think it's right on time to just suggest wherever you are, just start. I mean, that's the point. Today is the start codon of the entire gene keys sequence. So start. There's no right or wrong way to start. It could just simply come with as simple as, you know, using a 13-day cycle to plan your next event or adventure, for example, just tapping in and finding another way to apply these other lenses we're learning about today that we're sharing about. So certainly we encourage people to follow up with Alicia and Katya, who are living down there in Costa Rica in the future in many ways. So we're grateful for your time and presence today. I'd love to invite Reuben to say how people can be in touch as well with you specifically, and where we can find your ongoing work, our ongoing work online as well. So feel free to chime in.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks again for creating the container for these conversations to be normalized, as Y'Shell mentioned. And yeah, the people, the way that we all met in this call was Facebook, which is on it's also fading. But for now, that's the vehicle that we have been using to.
I think you're frozen there.
We all did meet on.
Yeah, we all did meet on Facebook. It's true.
And
well, I'll follow that up to say, I think Ruben was inviting you.
Page, you can check the work aspects of this and body of knowledge to go to the third.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in because obviously the audio went out. Ruben is inviting you to visit Harmonic Convergence. Oh, we just lost him. Okay, well, there we go. But visit Harmonic Convergence 2028 on Facebook. That is the educational page and the body that collaborates with the Harmonic Factor. The harmonicfactor.com, 13months28days.info. All of these resources have been left in the chat on YouTube, so we invite people to check these things out at their leisure. And, you know,
Sign the calendar referendum petition too, if you haven't yet.
And then we invite folks to certainly sign the petition, because this, again, is a part of the answer to the question of how to normalize this, is just educate people. Like the children now are being educated. They are the leaders. They're the ones that are going to take this germinating seed and see it to full blossom in their lifetimes. You know, and so whatever we can do to engage young people in these codes, teach them how these codes are in their body, 1320, 1328, all of it's in our body, your 64 codon of DNA, everything is in our physiology. It's such an amazing space that we've been gifted. In addition to the light body that is emerging and, you know, having its time as well, should we certainly just raise our vibration. So that's the type of joy I'm talking about. That's what we're talking about. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And again, thank you everybody for tuning in around the world for this Activating Our Galactic DNA live roundtable transmission event here. And we're so grateful for your presence. And we get Ruben coming back in the room to say his
Happy Rave New Year.
And happy Rave New Year to everybody. And certainly go to jovianarchive.com. That is the primary resource, official resource online for all things concerning the human design system. And also visit genekeys.com, as that is the official website for all things concerning the gene keys. And we invite you also to learn more about the synchronic order by going to lawoftime.org. These are our great friends at the Foundation for the Law of Time, who have been advancing Jose Arguelles, Loydina Arguelles' work, and now Stephanie South and their leadership at FLT, putting that out there to encourage people who want to learn more to certainly go there. You'll find lots of resources, lots of information. Ruben, I'm not sure if you're with us. I see you here, you're muted, but with no camera. Okay, if you come off mute, maybe you can say your farewell. Okay, we lost you again. We'll take that as a sign. that he tried, and we're just going to go ahead and all sign off. And I'm so grateful for, again, the time presence, and for the children especially being part of this energy and this commemoration. Yay, 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 more of that. Thank you to everybody. Peace and love in Lakesh.
In Lakesh.
Alakim. Blessed love.
Thank you.